The Beautiful Demon Slayer and the Werewolf Prince by author E.T.H. Prologue. The early 1900s. This was when the earth fell into ruin. It was when hostile monsters of all shapes and sizes, from fairy tales to ones that had never been seen or heard of before, took over the earth, with no one knowing where they came from or how they came to be. In a matter of weeks, most of the world's settlements were lost, along with many human lives, in what used to be the country of Ireland. The humans that managed to stay alive decided to find a safer settlement to call home, since most of their beloved country was being overrun by monsters. Among these survivors was a young orphaned girl named Catherine Rena, though only being 11 years old when the monsters took her home and family from her. Catherine's spirit remained strong and hopeful for a better tomorrow. But even so, she knew the moment she and her fellow survivors started to travel that the worst was far from over. Within the travels of the Irish people, food and water were difficult to find and keep, and with different sorts of monsters coming after them with every corner they turned, it was even more difficult to stay alive. Many of the travelers died, either from hunger or monster attacks along the way. However, despite all the hardships, Catherine did her best to help with the day-to-day struggles. Whether it was helping the adults find more food, water, and other such supplies, or keeping the other children calm whenever a monster came along their path of traveling. After nearly a month and a half of traveling on the foot and then boat, the Irish survivors landed in Japan, where they discovered other survivors from nearly all over the world. After sharing their supplies and knowledge, the Irish people found that nearly all of the humans that were still alive were traveling the earth looking for new homes and settlement. Just like them, after discussing the situation, the survivors of Ireland and the other nations decided to stay in Japan and built a settlement where all humans could feel welcome and safe from the monsters. However, that goal would be much harder to achieve than anyone would be able to guess at the time, for it seemed no matter where the survivors tried to construct their new home, the monsters in the area would find them and thwart their attempts for the future. And around this tragic time of death and despair, many of the villagers were beginning to lose hope. The survivors were beginning to lose hope. But Catherine Rena stayed strong. Upon seeing her fellow refugees in such depths of doubt, it made her decide upon something that would not only change her life, but also the course of history. Catherine decided that she would learn to survive in this dangerous new world, and after doing plenty of research on weaponry, she began to collect the bones of monsters she would find on her travels, and ones from dead monsters that her fellow travelers would slay. When young Catherine had enough monster bones, she melted them together into a giant boomerang that was as tall as a fully grown man. With this new weapon, Catherine learned how to slay monsters on her own, and over the next few years of her life, she had mastered the art of martial arts, fighting with the katana, and the art of strategizing, all thanks to the instructors among her fellow survivors who were from Japan itself. But of all her wonderful new skills, Catherine was especially gifted at using her boomerang bone to defend her people, to which she gave the weapon the Japanese name Hiraikotsu. With Catherine's protection, the survivors were able to build a large, walled village in the well-hidden mountain valley in the western lands of Japan, which they let Catherine name the Village of the White Rose, after her favorite flower. Even after the village was completed, Catherine continued to protect her new home with all her might. However, being the only protector of the village White Rose came with a heavy price. For nearly every day of her life, Catherine had to slay monsters left and right, leaving her very tired in the process. Because of this, one day at the age of 15, she even came close to losing her life. It happened when she was finishing off a giant scorpion monster with the head of an old man, originally from China, that was outside of her village. Once Catherine finished the beast off, she failed to notice its female mate was seething with rage behind her, ready to take Catherine's head for revenge. But at that very last second, a lion-sized, twin-tailed female Necomanta cat attacked the vengeful monster, killing it as it managed to scratch one of her front paws, saving Catherine's life. Once the monster was dead, Catherine could only stare at the giant cat in complete shock, since when did a monster save a human? A human that killed monsters, no less. But after the Neko let the young warrior help her with her injured paw, the human fighter herself came to a surprising conclusion. Not every monster is evil or out to kill or eat humans. In some ways they're just like us, wanting to survive or live a life of their choosing. This monster chose to help me today, in doing so put herself in danger for my sake. What a strange turn of events. Catherine told her fellow villagers after introducing the brave Neko to them. With this new discovery, Catherine decided to study monsters as well as only kill the ones causing threats to humans. While doing so, the Nekomata, whom Catherine named Kilala, after the lovely Japanese flower, decided to repay Catherine for helping her with her paw by helping the young warrior protect her village as her partner in battle, and in doing so became Catherine's best friend. In their time spent together, Catherine learned that Kilala could transform from a small house-sized cat into a large saber-toothed lion-sized version of herself, and when the Neko was large, she could breathe fire, fly on air, and had super strength. However, even with the help of her courageous and loyal partner, protecting the village of the White Rose was still quite a large job. So Catherine and Kilala later decided to train everyone in their village to defend themselves, which included martial arts training, lessons on how to use a katana sword, how to craft and use their own weapons, and how to master the art of strategizing. Soon there became an entire village of demon slayers, as Catherine had labeled them when she became the village's new leader at the age of 20. These warriors also studied the monsters of the world as well as took slaying missions from all over the globe when someone would message them by radio for help. Catherine was proud of what she had done for her world, and her studies of monsters proved to be very useful for others, since they showed humans how to avoid running into monsters, how to stay safe when they came across one. Over her lifetime, Catherine learned and experienced many wondrous things, and went on many adventures. Over time, Catherine learned that her loyal Kilala could live for over hundreds of years, so she was confident that her beloved haven of a village would stay safe for a very, very long time. In her adult years, Catherine married a man named Thomas Fox, who was one of the original survivors from Ireland, and he with him had 2 sons, Leo and John. Together with Kilala and her husband and sons, Catherine watched over the village of the White Rose and fought for the betterment of the world for the rest of her days. Even after Catherine and her husband had passed on, Kilala and her sons continued to lead the demon slayers towards a better tomorrow. To be continued.